Yo, 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 and welcome to the House of Black and White. And today we're gonna continue on the topic of chaos magic, chaos witches, chaos energy, and how one might come to terms with the fact that they indeed might be a chaos witch. Now, how I would start by saying is a little anecdote about spell work. So, I consider spell work to be a little bit like every spell you cast, every ritual you do is like a question you ask from yourself, from your higher self, from your soul, from your spirit guides, from the universe. And you kind of like put the question out there, and the manifestation, the result of the spell is kind of like the answer to your question. So let's say you're doing like a self-love spell, and the result of that spell, the manifestation of that spell is kind of like the answer to your question, like where you at with your self-love journey. What are the areas I should love more about myself? What are the areas that I already love? How do I value myself? How should I value myself more? What helps me get there better? All these things. So, because like chaos magic has such a base in psychology, it really is like psychology and magic together. To me at least, that's how I kind of look at it, and it's so transformative. Like it's really like alchemy, self-alchemy. And I feel it's like sort of precisely like even more important to a chaos witch to stand tall in their weirdness, in their individuality, without having to need to like really make it clear, without having to stress about the fact that are they being seen and are they being seen, I almost talked Finnish there, are they being seen as who they are? I think that's something that's very important, like I was talking about in my earlier videos. This sort of like need to be seen as who you are can lead you to take on almost like a character, because it's easier to like almost like a role, because it's easier now, you're like a specific person, so it's easier in your head to people to see who you are. This is obviously subconscious, but so it really, chaos magic helps you to remember who you are and stand tall in your weirdness, whatever it is, without you having to like think about it. Think about, do other people see me? And and I also chaos magic to me. Where did I put my water? I'm sorry, you guys. So unprofessional. Like I'm a professional. But so much about chaos magic to me is also about balance. Because not all chaos witches, but it's very likely that chaos witches have had quite tumultuous past. Now this can obviously mean many things, but let's say you struggled with bullying, like heavy bullying. You struggled with addictions, and addiction can be quite many things. Obviously, it can be addiction to substances. It can be addiction to different emotions like fear, anger, sadness, depression, shopping addiction to spend. It can be different forms of OCD, to addiction to clean. It can be addiction to love, addiction to people. And also, like, I feel like chaos witches have gone through this very like lonely path when they always had to like come to their own on their own. Like every thought and like ideology that they have and the view of the world, they really had to like validate themselves constantly, because other people may not have really been like on your level, let's say, of, because your mind tends to be perhaps a little ahead of its time in a way. Not to like stroke anyone's ego, but a little bit like that. So chaos magic is like super self transformative. That's not to say it doesn't have ripple effects, which I'm gonna come to. Well, let's say I had this like interesting example, because I was talking also about my previous videos about kind of like accidentally practicing chaos magic. I'm not gonna go too much into that right now, but it's in my part 1 and part 2 videos. But what came to mind also was this show called Heroes, and there's this guy, I can't remember his name, but he's this comic book guy, and he's creating these comic books that come to life. There's this cheerleader character played by Hayden Panettiere. I might have butchered the last name, but so the guy is kind of channeling Hayden's life. And what's interesting is sort of to think about, because I have, experienced in my own life a couple of incidents that had made me really think about time in a very different way. It's kind of like art magic also, this is what I'm talking about. But so creation come to life, and where does creation come from? It comes from your mind basically, but not just that. And then the question is like, which one came first? Like, is Hayden influencing the man, or is the man influencing Hayden? There's like a couple of examples of this in some films and TV shows. I think something very similar happens in the film The Unbreakable, I believe it is, with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. And also a little bit, it's a little Death Note-y also. Death Note is this anime series. By the way, I have to say, so, this has nothing to do with anything, but I just thought I would mention, because one of my favorite series of all times is Full Metal Alchemist. And lately I've been wanting to watch some like good anime again, and I started watching this show called Sword Art Online. And oh my god, let me tell you, I'm so hooked. Like, it doesn't have the most mind-blowing premise of all time, but it's so effective in a way, and it's like very easy to watch and follow, but it's not like just like just popcorn entertainment. Like, there is depth there, and I also feel like it's very, in a way, it's very timely. It's very off the times, but it creeps me out, you guys. Like, it really creeps me out in a way. I don't know, it just makes me feel very eerie, but it's so good. It's such a good show. If anybody happens to love anime, maybe watch Sword Art Online, my recommendation to you. But what was I talking about? So yeah, like, creation in chaos magic is such an importance. And a lot of chaos witches are artists in a sense of musicians, but also in the very traditional way of being painters, being illustrators, and so on. So that's something you might really respond to well. Like, your magical practice might also be very visual, and that's, I don't think there's nothing to be, because there can be a little bit of a stigma about being an aesthetic witch, which I think is, I see all sides of it. But anyway, I really respond also heavily with visual stimuli, although I'm very kind of a mental witch. But so visual stimuli might be super effective for you. So don't hesitate to use that, whether it is an art piece and whatever it is, because this is the beautiful part about chaos magic, is that there is no rules. You can use like images of Disney villains in your altar. You can listen to, Children of Voodoo, Metallica, your favorite musical theater soundtrack, or your favorite musical soundtrack in your rituals, or when you meditate or perform a spell. Like if it gets you there, use it. Because in chaos magic, you don't have to work according to, specific days of the week or months or moon phases. You can do, let's say, banishing spell at waxing moon, new moon, full moon, crescent moon. It doesn't matter. And also you can work with different deities that it might feel like at first weird to you to work with, like you feel called to work with certain deity. That's not if you're going through something like, well, let's say love wise, because that's what we all want. So you're working on love, self-love, just partner love, whatever, and you are called to work with a deity that's normally not associated, like traditionally, I should say, traditionally is not associated with love. If you really feel drawn to it and called to it, like check it out, go for it, because you can't really make like mistakes in that way, or let's say you're doing like self-love spell and you being called to use like an herb or a divination tool that traditionally has nothing to do with self-love spells, but you really correspond with it, or you want to do banishing spell using toilet paper, do it. Actually, that makes kind of a little bit sense, because you're wiping off shit. So, but you know what I mean, like you can do anything really with that. But that doesn't mean that although we are all free, that doesn't mean that we don't have responsibility. Now, responsibility is a choice, but it's not a choice in the sense that there's always like there's action and then there is something that happens, So what's the smart way to say that? Well, anyway, you know what I mean. Like with every action there is a result. So we are free, but that doesn't exclude us or anyone from, that there is like a result that happens, whatever you do. So for your own good, I would advise some form of responsibility, because chaos magics, in for example the heroes example that I gave, or the Death Note example that I gave, they're really, I've noticed, maybe not always in that way, but like chaos magic really has like long legs. Magic in general has, but because chaos magic to me seems to be the most prevalent energy in our world, really. So just keep that in mind, but have fun with chaos magic, because you're supposed to have fun with magic as well. So yeah. And so much about chaos magic is about also like finding consistencies in something that seems inconsistent. It's about finding the sense in something that doesn't seem to make any sense. Well, that's really magic almost, but like chaos magic truly to me is that. And remember to listen to the chaos. Don't be afraid of it, but don't try to become it. Jennifer of Wenneberg, because like Jennifer, learned in Witcher, you really can't become chaos, but you can be in cahoots with it. Like you can be like pals, So yeah, I think that's all for now. And read Nietzsche quotes, because I was being called to read this book. I was being called to study Jewish mysticism, specifically Jewish mysticism, and I was being constantly introduced to this book called "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," and I started the book, and you guys, I consider myself to be a somewhat smart individual, but I haven't read the book yet. It's not the Chamber of Secrets. Let's put it that way. And I love Harry Potter. House Slytherin, but so what I'm getting at is quotes can be super effective. You don't have to read Nietzsche necessarily, but like I think quotes get a bad memeable rep because they sometimes really can like get you there, and sometimes it can be even more effective when things are good things come in small packages, as they say. So that's like a weird afterthought there, but I'm gonna go and enjoy the day because it's finally warm in Finland. Like, Lord have mercy, thank you. We have a great day today, and yeah, I'm happy. And I hope that you're too. Namaste and oneness. Bye.